So we have Asian mirepoix, scallion, ginger, and garlic. We have head-on, shell-on shrimp. We have a tomato, rice wine, yuki sake, and chicken stock. Um, there's another video on chicken stock in my channel. These little, I guess they're called shortnecks or manila clams. These are enoki mushrooms. You buy them at most Korean or Japanese markets. Goes great in any kind of soup noodle dishes. And we're using a white miso instead of red. It goes better with seafood. We have bonito flake, the dry seaweed, kombu. Those two make the dashi broth, and that noodle is what we're using. This is the mirepoix. Everything is just rough chopped, and we're just gonna separate head from tail on these shrimp. The heads we're gonna use to make our seafood stock. So we get maybe a tablespoon of oil, get it fairly hot, then the heads go in, and we want some decent color on the heads. Uh, we're gonna add all the mirepoix except for the tomatoes, and that's gonna toast in the oil with the shrimp heads. If you add the tomatoes now, the water is gonna bleed out, and you're not gonna get enough heat to really get nice color on the shrimp or the vegetables. Now you see there's decent color. We're gonna add half the tomatoes in. Let some of that tomato liquid evaporate, and then we'll add the other half. So a lot of sauteing is just, it's about controlling the liquid and knowing which ingredients are gonna bleed water as soon as it hits a hot pan. Okay, so decent color, a little bit of fond. We're gonna deglaze with rice wine, and when you're using rice wine or any kind of alcohol, you really want to cook it out. And in the case of rice wine, you want to cook it down to nothing. So, yep, as you can see, the pan's completely dry. There's no more alcohol whatsoever. And now we're ready to add the chicken stock. This is a fairly neutral stock. There's no parsley or thyme or anything like that. It's just chicken bones and basic mirepoix. So you can use it in Asian dishes, Western dishes, and it won't get in the way in terms of the flavor profile. So now we just set that aside to simmer, and another ladle of chicken stock, bottom of a small saucepan with a lid, and we're gonna use that to steam open the clams. Now these little guys, they give up in no time. Literally 40 seconds to a minute, and they surrender. Okay, so now they're completely open. We're gonna strain, break off the top shell, reserve the clam meat in the half shell. That's how we're gonna serve it. Now we're straining it out, and we're pouring that clam juice into the shrimp stock. Now we're gonna ladle some of the stock out and use a separate pan with maybe half a cup of the stock to cook our shrimp. Now if you dump the shrimp into that pot of stock to cook, you have very little control. This way, cooking it separately, you can pull the shrimp as soon as you're done, and you can flip them and you can actually see what's happening. So the shrimp takes no more than 2 minutes. We pull them out in reserve next to the clams, so nothing's overcooked. And now we're just skimming, very important. Any kind of soup or stock, anything that floats up, you want it gone. Now we're straining out the solids from the stock. As you can see, I'm just tapping the sieve. I'm not trying to push anything through. And now we make the dashi with the seafood stock. So that's kombu. That goes in. You don't want this to boil. Let it come to a simmer and you pull it off the heat. Let it steep for 5 minutes. Now you add your bonito flakes. These are going to fly all over the place. I've yet to find a good method to put them in the pot. But in any case, same thing with the kombu, the dry seaweed. You don't want this to boil. Think of this as like making tea. And once it comes to a simmer, you pull it off the heat and you strain everything out after 5 minutes. Okay, so now we strain out the bonito flakes and the kombu, and there. That's pretty much your dashi seafood stock. Now we add miso, and so far we've added no salt to this dish, and we're gonna season entirely with the miso paste. So you whisk out the miso and you taste just like as if you're using salt. And if you need more, you add more. Just remember you can't take it away. So yep, tad more miso. And you don't want the miso to burn, to come to a boil either. Uh, Now we add our enoki mushrooms. These come to a very slight simmer. You can pull it off the heat. You can actually eat this raw. So okay, so now we're ready to cook our noodles. Salted water, well salted. Noodles go in. And while that's going, we're slicing up some scallion for garnish. And look at that, the noodles are done. Now we just pour the shrimp back into the stock just to warm them through. As with any pasta or noodle, you want to work relatively quickly once the noodles are cooked. So here we're dropping some loose clam meat as well as the clams on the half shell. And you don't have to lay these down in any kind of pattern, just get it in the bowl. When you garnish with the scallion, you want to put it right in the middle, and that's going to focus your presentation. So there you go. I hope you enjoy the video.